Hi Math 2 students, so today we're going to learn about different angle relationships that are made when you have two lines that are cut by a transversal or another line. Alright, so the first one we're going to learn about is alternate interior angles. Alright. So alternate interior angles, I'm going to go ahead and draw a picture. Now, one thing that's very important to kind of note as we go through these. So you can have alternate interior angles with lines that are not parallel, and you can have alternate interior angles with lines that are parallel. So here we could do that. These lines are not parallel, and then we'll have lines that are parallel. All right, cool. So first we'll look at the not parallel. All right. Alternate interior angles could be like angle 1 and angle 2. Those are alternate interior. You could also have lines like angle 3 and angle 4. Those are alternate interior. Now, notice these lines here are not parallel. So there's really no special relationship between these angles. All we know is that they are alternate interior. However, once you throw in two parallel lines, they end up having specific properties. So let's go ahead and label them again. We'll make we'll say angles 5 and angle 6, and angle 7 and angle 8. Those are alternate interior. So if these lines are parallel, and we can even draw, I think you guys know that like these indicate that they're parallel. If the lines are parallel, alternate interior angles are congruent. So that means that angle 5 is congruent to angle 6, and angle 7 is congruent to angle 8. All right, so alternate interior angles are congruent. And that is if the two lines are parallel. All right, so now let's go ahead and learn about alternate exterior angles. All right, so let's go ahead and draw a picture. What we'll do for now is we'll just draw them as parallel lines. All right, so we'll say these guys are parallel. We will draw our transversal here. So angle 1 and angle 2 are alternate exterior. So notice the alternate interior, right? They were on the inside of the parallel lines. And they were on the kind of opposite sides here. Same thing for the alternate exterior, right? They're on the outside and they're on the opposite sides. All right, so we've got 1 and 2, and we've got angles 3 and 4. So one thing you should know about alternate exterior angles, when the two lines are parallel, they are congruent. So we could say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. So you could say alternate exterior angles are congruent. So what does that mean? So like if I gave you a picture like this and said, you know, that like, you don't have to write this down, but like if I said angle 3 was equal to 40, well, you would know automatically that angle 4 was equal to 40 because they are alternate exterior angles, and these are two parallel lines. All right, next ones, we have same side interior. So we'll go ahead, again, we'll just use our parallel lines. So same side interior would be like 1 and 2, or 3 and 4. Now looking at these, you can tell that 1 and 2 do not seem congruent at all. Okay, so 1 and 2 are same side interior angles. They're not congruent. They are actually supplementary, okay? So we'd say All right, so same side interior angles are supplementary. So that means that angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. And that means that angle 3 plus angle 4 equals 180. All right, cool. So again, these were same side interior. Next, we've got same side exterior. All right, we'll draw our picture. Again, we will make them parallel. Draw our transversal. So same side exterior angles. An example of that would be like, we'll say 1 and 2. Or we could say angles 3 and 4. Notice how these, those pairs of angles are on the same side, but now they're on the outside of those parallel lines, so they are exterior. And these have the same relationship. They are also supplementary. So 1 and 2 are supplementary. So we've got angle 1, oops, that's supposed to be in green. Angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. And angle 3 plus angle 4 equals 180. All right, cool. Now let's go ahead. Let's look at corresponding angles. All right. All right. So corresponding angles. Oh, I forgot to draw that this is parallel. Here we go. We'll draw our parallel lines. And again, these rules in the middle only apply if these two lines are parallel. If they look like this and they're not parallel, then these rules do not apply. They're still same side interior, same side exterior, what have you, but you can't say that those angles are then congruent or supplementary. All right, so an example of corresponding angles might be this guy and this guy. We could label it like, actually here. Sorry, I hope you guys, I'm sure you already wrote this, but I'll make a little bit more room. So we'll say like A and B. We got angles A and B. Those would be corresponding angles. Another example. You guys can draw this all in the same one if you want to. It doesn't really matter. We could say these guys. All right, these would be, we could say B, C, C, and D. Those are corresponding angles. So these guys are congruent, all right? So we could say like angle A is congruent to angle B, and we could say angle C is congruent to angle D. All right, and then, of course, I guess we did talk about vertical and supplementary angles already, so I guess we can make 2 more boxes. I miscounted. So we'll say vertical angles. So we know those are congruent. And we know that vertical angles will happen when they're right across from each other. So here, let's draw that in there. We do this. Vertical angles might be this. So we could say like angle 1 and angle 2. We could say angle 3 and angle 4. All right. So we know that vertical angles are congruent. And with this, it doesn't necessarily have to be parallel. So for vertical angles and supplementary angles, you don't necessarily have to have these 2 parallel lines. So we could say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. And angle 3. And so I guess you can kind of make a note that like beyond this line, it doesn't need to be parallel. All right, and then the last one we will have is supplementary, which hopefully you guys remember. So So like if we had a guy that looked like this, angle 1 and angle 2, obviously supplementary angles are supplementary. We could say angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. All right, so this note sheet is going to be something that is referenced throughout the rest of the module. So make sure you have a copy of this, whether you took it on notebook paper or on the actual, physical copy of this. Make sure you use this throughout the module. Make sure your notes on this are nice and clear. So let's go ahead and just take a look here at our 5.5 notes. Now these kind of go through the definitions of all of these. That's pretty much what we just did. So let's go ahead. It says describe these angle relationships. So I want you to note that these are not parallel. So we couldn't say that any of these are congruent or supplementary based on these relationships, but we could go ahead and, start saying, okay, these are vertical, these are corresponding, and things like that. So if we're looking here, for A it says 1 and 4. All right, so if we're looking at our note sheet, angle 1 and 4 are going to be corresponding. The reason I said that they're corresponding is because corresponding angles would look like that. If you look back on the note sheet, you'll see that, right? Corresponding angles follow that pattern. Then we have angles 5 and 8. Oops. So 5 and 8. If you look at your note sheet, you could see that these are going to be alternate interior. Then we've got angle 7 and angle 10. Hopefully you guys remember from last section, these are going to be vertical angles. And then we've got 4 and 9. And if we look back at our note sheet, you can see that 4 and 9 are going to follow that alternate exterior pattern. All right, they're on the outside, so they're exterior, and then they're on the opposite sides there, so they are alternate exterior. All right, next they ask for 1 and 9, which is kind of confusing, right? You look at it, you're like, oh gosh, but you can really just kind of ignore this guy in the middle, right? And you can see that you've got 2 alternate exteriors as well. And then we've got 2 and 6. All right, 2 and 6 are going to be corresponding, again, because they follow this pattern here. And then we've got 6 and 7. So I want you to look at your notes and see if you can figure out what 6 and 7 are. So look at your notes. Do we think it's alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, same side exterior, vertical? What do those guys look like? So those guys are going to be alternate interior. All right, and then we end up with 6 and 10. What relationship do we think 6 and 10 have? So if we look, 6 and, oh, wrong document. 6 and 10 follow that corresponding angle pattern. So we got corresponding angles. All right, so that's kind of how you label those. Now, we really did, in that summary sheet we just did, we went over all of these, like if they're parallel, which ones are congruent. So we did kind of go over that already. Now let's go ahead. It says find the measure of each numbered angle, justify your reason. So one thing I want to point out now Now we've got parallel lines, so we can use those congruencies. Back here, these were not parallel, so they were still, you know, they were still corresponding vertical, what have you, but we couldn't sit there and say, oh, you know, they're going to add up to 180, they're going to be congruent because the lines were not parallel. But now we look and we're like, okay, these lines are parallel, so I can use those theorems here. And I've got this going on. This is a same side interior. So what do we know about same side interior? Are they complementary? Are they supplementary? Are they congruent? What do we know about same side interior angles? If you look there, you can see that same side interior angles are supplementary. So we know that 80 plus whatever angle 5 is needs to add to 180. So we would get that angle 5 is equal to 100. All right, and our justifying our answer is that they are same side interior, and we know that same side interiors are supplementary. All right, so let's go ahead. Sorry, there's a lot of noise going on around here. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this next one. All right, what kind of angles do we have here? We got 8 and 42. If you look, you can see that these are alternate exterior. And again, we have parallel lines. So alternate exterior angles that are formed by parallel lines have a special relationship. Are they complementary, supplementary, congruent? What do we have here? You should have that they are congruent. So if this angle is 42, that means that angle 8 needs to equal 42 degrees. All right, let's go ahead. Let's keep rocking and rolling here. It says find the value of the variables, justify the reasons. So they want us to find the value of x, the value of y, and the value of z. So first thing I'm looking at here, I think x would be the best one to find here. These guys, hopefully you remember, are vertical angles. And we know that vertical angles are congruent. So we could say 3x minus 6 equals 42. We'll do plus 6. Plus 6, we get 3x equals 48. 48 divided by 3 is going to give us 16. So we know that x is equal to 16. All right. So now I'm looking at this next one and I'm like, well, okay, I do have supplementary angles. I have a straight angle here and I could add them up to 180, but it's not going to work because I got two different variables. But what I could do is I could figure out what this angle is here, right? So I would do 3 times 16 and minus 6. And that is going to give me 40. Well, I guess I also should have just known that it was 42 because it was a vertical angle. So we know that this angle is 42. So now we look and we see, well, we've got parallel lines here. All right, and we can use our relationships to figure out these missing variables. So let's go ahead. Why don't we worry about this guy first? What kind of a relationship does this 42 have and this 2z plus 2 have? That's going to be alternate interior. If you look on your sheet, alternate interior angles are congruent. So that means that this angle here is going to be equal to 42. So we could say 2z plus 2 equals 42 minus 2. Z is equal to 20. Oops, sorry, wrote it in the wrong line. All right. Then we can go ahead and try and find y here. So again, we can look at the different relationships. Personally, I would look at it and say, well, we got supplementary here. We know that this angle is 42, right? So we could figure out what the measure of this angle is. We would do 180 minus 42. And you get 138. So we know that this whole angle is equal to 138. So we can go ahead and say 13y plus 8 equals 138, and solve from there. So we'll do minus 8, we get 13y equals 130, we get y equals 10. Now there is another way we could have done this, and I want to just point that out to you. We could have also used same side interior angles to solve for this. So I could have said, well, I know that this angle here is 42 degrees, and I don't know what this angle is, but I know that these two angles are same side interior. And same side interior angles, those are supplementary. So we could say, well, 42 plus 13y plus 8 equals 180. And solve for y from there. And you should end up with the same answer. We get 13y plus 50 equals 180 minus 50. 13y equals 130. And we get that, again, y equals 10. All right, so that's another way you could have done that. There are so many different ways you can solve these. You also could, you could have used corresponding angles for this guy as well. A lot of these, you'll see that there's multiple ways to solve. All right.